Hello, Saturnians. So let's respond to a tag today created by Amy over at Strength Reversed. I love her channel. You should check her out if you haven't already. Recently, Laura over at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books also made a VR, and I decided to join the tea party and share with you my tarot anti-bucket list. That is, everything I do not want to do when it comes to tarot, the goals I do not have. As always, all links will be down below in the description box, and I'd love to see other people joining in as well because, it can get juicy. All right, so I do not really aspire to invite spirits, whether it's spirit guides, ancestors, angels, dead people, whatever, to be part of my tarot readings. So for me, the answers we get in a tarot reading come from the reader's own subconscious mind. The answers are not coming from an external source. They're not coming from guides or from angels or ancestors or dead people who might be in the room. No. I know the meanings of the cards, I know the numerology and the astrological associations, so this is enough for me to get the answers I need. I do not need a spirit to guide the whole thing. Now, I once went to a lady who gave readings in a cool little shop here in my city, and when she started talking, I realized that whatever she was saying had zero connection with the cards I had picked. She just started saying stuff, and sometimes she paused as if she was like listening to some kind of ghost, and then she would continue talking. And in her defense, she did give me some meaningful information at the time. But while that was accurate, that was not a tarot reading, like at all. I mean, if she was not gonna take the cards into account, why did she even need the cards? So, this is not something I feel like doing because I think that the structure of tarot gives us room for so many beautiful and deep psychological explorations. So, in order to take full advantage of that, we need to really read the cards and dive into the meanings, the numerology, the astrology, and so on. I know many people in the community do not use astrological associations in a reading, and that's okay, that's absolutely fine. But for me, it's just a natural process. I learned tarot like that, so I cannot not use it. For me, astrology is directly related to the card meanings. And this is what makes tarot wonderful. Now, do I sense sometimes that there is another intelligence in the room? Yes. Do I sometimes feel that they are trying to communicate? Yes. When that happens, I will let them talk. But my readings do not depend on that to flow. It's not a requirement, and I do not invite them to come. If they do show up spontaneously, then yeah, it's fine, but I will still not deviate from the meanings of the cards. That's it. And if you think that I am contradicting myself because of what I said in my video about hereditary witchcraft, which I'll link here somewhere, you're right. I'm contradicting myself. Life is full of paradoxes, isn't it? Okay, next. I do not aspire to go on a depth here like ever, and here is why. I think that if I have a healthy relationship with my decks and my collection, then I don't need a depth year. Or better, every year is a depth year because I'm using my decks, connecting with them, working with them, and receiving meaningful messages from them. I think my collection is a living entity with phases. It's alive, recycling itself. Every year I rehome a bunch of decks I no longer use. I get new decks that have something for me to explore. I am gifted decks and I gift decks to other readers. So my collection is always changing, breeding, living. And this for me is what depth looks like. I don't think that not buying decks for a year adds anything to my relationship with my cards. I also don't think that the number of decks in my collection matter at all. Some people have an unhealthy relationship with their decks even if they only have a dozen decks. Others will make the most out of their collection with well over 100 decks. But of course, I am saying this because my collection never overwhelms me. Some people in the community have been very open about the struggles with buying decks, and in that case, yeah, they are 100% correct in taking this measure and choosing to, not buy decks for a year. So I am not calling anyone out for doing that. I am just saying that from the perspective of someone who has a healthy relationship with some 60-ish decks, that's how many decks I think I have. I feel that not buying decks or getting rid of a bunch of decks will not necessarily bring me any more depth, even though I understand this is true for some people. I guess I'll make a whole video about this in the future because, yeah, it's about time, isn't it? I think we are focusing on the wrong things when we discuss this matter as a community. Because the question we should be really asking ourselves is, what is the role of art in our lives? Instead of discussing number of decks and, I think nobody is discussing the stuff that matters. So it's a project for the future. I do not aspire to mod my decks, not even the ones that would benefit from some modification. I do have this tiny Lenormand that I attempted to mod. I created these bags to match the box which I made with a box of matches. This is something I take to my trips with me, and if you want to see my mini travel altars, I have a video showing them. Check out the description box. But I am no boho tarot, so I have no skill and no patience to mod a deck. I'm a Virgo, I am super perfectionist, and I already know in advance I would not be happy with the final result, and then I would hate myself for ruining my decks with my stupidity, so I'm not even going to try. I once edged my Muse Tarot bright pink because, well, this one is the mass market version and the indie version had beautiful pink edges, and I said, well, I think I can try to recreate that vibe. So I used this bright pink and I loved it actually, but that is about the only thing that I can do. Anything more than that causes me Virgo anxiety. I would really love to trim some of my decks that I think would look great without the borders, but no, I don't trust myself, so I'm not even going to try. And if I am 100% honest, I dislike like 50% of decks that have been modified. So if I'm not happy with the deck as it is, I'd rather not buy it than try to change it. But that's because I have no skill. If I had the skill, I probably would. And this takes me to the next point. I do not aspire to read with Lenormand decks. I have exactly one Lenormand deck, and it's this tiny one I showed you before. And well, Lenormand is a very precise tool, but it's very limiting for me as a system. I feel Lenormand readings are good for specific, pragmatic, mundane questions, but not for psychological explorations, not for shadow work, not for open-ended questions. And these are my favorite kinds of readings, the readings that give me enough room to explore. And Lenormand feels a little limiting for me. The answers are very black and white, I don't know if others feel like this as well, but that's how I feel about Lenormand decks. Having said that, I do know people who are very good Lenormand readers, and they say that Lenormand is the most precise tool, and I can see that. But yeah, reading with Lenormand to me is just not as enjoyable as reading with my other decks that follow either Thought or RWS system. And recently I've been studying Marseille, which I am enjoying also, but Lenormand, no, not for me. But here is the thing, maybe the reason why I find Lenormand very limiting is simply because, again, I do not have the skill to read with Lenormand. So what I'm trying to say is that at this point, I am not going to dive deep into Lenormand to get meaningful readings out of it. I'd rather use my energy to master the stuff that I already know. So this is something that it's been on my mind a lot. Like, instead of having multiple interests within witchcraft and tarot and divination in general, I'm going to focus on a couple of things and do them really well, master these ones. This is more important for me than knowing 100,000 things. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But I have to say that I would love to have a couple of other Lenormand decks for those cases in which I need a specific type of answer that only a Lenormand deck could give. So maybe I'll get another Lenormand deck and experiment with it. But that would be more for fun. So So, next is I do not aspire to do live readings on YouTube or any other platform. I need the concentration and I just cannot concentrate if I am live. Like, I really don't know how people on YouTube manage to do live readings for multiple people at once. I know some of you go online and somebody asks a question and then you shuffle your deck and give them an answer, and then somebody else asks another question, you just shuffle again, and somehow the deck picks up on the energy of a completely different person. And for me, that's crazy. It does not work like that for me. I'd never be able to do that. It feels very disjointed. So doing live readings is not a tarot goal for me. I feel my concentration is sacred, and I know I can do great things when I am fully concentrated, but tarot reading under these circumstances would never be good ones for me. So I'd rather not do them than do something that I am really not proud of. And likewise, I do not aspire to do pick a card readings, pick a pile readings, or readings for specific signs. I never like to read for more than one person at once. I do not completely dislike such readings. I always do get something out of them, even if they are not personalized and even if they're not that specific, because they really cannot be specific unless one has a very small audience. Like if the same 10 people are always watching those pick a card readings, then maybe the message will be specific, but otherwise they're generic. And here's the thing, I don't really understand how the cards can pick up on the energy of so many different people, because there will always be conflicting energy in these types of readings. Not all Virgos are going through the same experiences, not all Geminis are in the same situation, not all the people that chose pile 2 will be going through the same stuff. So how can the reader pick up on these energies? For me, it feels like many people talking at the same time, and as the reader, I am trying to hear a music in the background that's playing at low volume. It's how it feels for me. So, the cards will pick up on the collective, but the collective might not be a good representation of what goes on in an individual level. Having said that, I think some people do a very good job listening to this music in the background while everyone talks, but that's not me. So again, it's for me a matter of concentration, and my concentration is sacred. It's my most treasured skill. It took many years for me to master single-mindedness, and for me this is the source of true intuition. So yeah, I cannot, and I don't want to, do readings for the collective, even though sometimes I like to watch these readings. I really do. There are some channels that when I go to these channels, I always get something out of the message that they are sharing. But as a reader, I would never be able to pull that off. Okay, there is something that really needs to be said here. I don't want to sound as if I was saying that if you do live readings or if you do readings for the collective, like pick a card readings, etc., you're doing it wrong. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying is that, the way I read tarot makes it impossible for me to do these kinds of readings. If you watched my video about hereditary witchcraft. I kind of talk a little bit about how in my family, everybody has some kind of psychic ability, and I've been rejecting this for a long time. But if I am honest with myself, I can identify in myself a little bit of clairaudience. I mean, if I had a superpower, that would be clairaudience. Like I hear things more than I see them. You know what I'm saying? So, what happens during a tarot reading with multiple people is that it feels for me like lots of people are talking at the same time. I hear a lot of stuff all at the same time. So it becomes overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? So maybe this is the reason why I cannot do readings for the collective. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say so that I don't sound as if I was saying that, if you do readings for the collective, you're doing it wrong. No, it's a personal thing. It has to do with me. All right. So yeah, I guess that's it. Let me know if you joined this tag as well. I can't wait to see other people's VRs too. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.